Hi, my name is Andrea Buckley, and I'm a licensed mental health therapist in the state of Michigan. And welcome to the Connection Diaries. I'm so happy that you are here. In this video, we are getting ready for the spring. Us in Michigan, we can feel the spring energy in our bones. We may still be struggling a little bit with the winter blues and, some heaviness, but we all can feel this anticipation that something new is coming, that something's about to bloom. And I know that you can feel it in the air. And so I'm just doing a series on some topics to get us prepared for spring, to get us prepared to bloom in whatever ways that we want to bloom, whether it be our relationship to ourselves, our relationship to the folks in our lives, romantically, platonically, our relationship to our career, our purpose, our work, whatever it may be, we are looking for change. We are looking for the seeds that we've been planting to blossom. And I want to talk about sometimes the stuff that gets in the way. And so in this series, I talked a little bit about, just some tips for spring that we can hold on to as we kind of enter into the season. I also put a video out there of just me engaging in a movement practice, how to hold yourself when you just want to be held. And for this video, what I want to talk about is the idea of loneliness. If you know me, you know I'm all about connection, community, intimacy, and creating spaces where people truly feel seen and heard. And what I found is because there's a lack of those kind of spaces in our communities, you see a lot of people experiencing loneliness. The statistic that is out there currently is 1 in 2 people experience loneliness on a regular basis. That's a lot of people. That's like half the people in your life, right? We're in a room full of 10 people, 5 people in that room are experiencing loneliness. I had to double check, make sure my math was good. But I want to talk about that. I want to talk about why that is. I want to talk about why, even if you go to social events, even if maybe you have a big friend group or feel connected to family or whatever, you may still be struggling with loneliness and some things that we can do to kind of combat that energy a little bit. And so, one thing we'll start with is the concept of like, what does it mean to be in authentic and genuine community? To me, community is more than just a group of people in the same room. A lot of times we will have a lot of people in the same room and say, like, I hosted a community event because there's a group of people there that gather. And I get it. If you want to think about the technical sense of the word, yes, this was a community gathering, a group of people in the same room. But the question I want to invite you to think about is, did people feel truly seen and heard in the space? And the only way we can truly evaluate that is to be able to ask every individual in that room, was I able to enter this space without wearing a mask? Was I able to enter this space as my authentic self? Was I able to be radically honest about the things that are going on in my mind, the things that are going on in my heart, and the things that are going on in my body? If the answer to those questions is no, then to me, that is not a community that feels safe, a community where there's authentic, genuine connection going on. And that is something that I think that we should be more intentionally creating. It's not about just like, oh, I got a lot of people together. A lot of people showed up. It's about if people showed up and if they felt seen, if they felt like they can be present, if they felt like they could be heard. And maybe it's just the therapist in me or the empath in me or the sensitive person in me. But I think that that is the true definition of community. And that is why we have a lot of social events, but we don't have true community. Another thing I found that kind of is contributing to the loneliness epidemic, in addition to a lack of genuine community, is a lot of times we are not really doing life with people. We may hang out with people maybe once a month or maybe every other week, or, we're busy. A lot of us are distracted and busy. So it makes it hard to say, hey, like, can we just check in real quick? Or, hey, like, I actually want to interact with you a little bit more frequently, but I feel like life is pulling me in all these other directions. And so a lot of times we keep prolonging connection, prolonging hanging out with people, and we feel disconnected. And we just chop it up to like, oh, everybody's busy. I'm a mom. I'm a wife. I'm all the different things that makes sense. Instead of saying like, no, like connection is, we're biologically wired for it. Connection is something that is just as important as food and water. Loneliness impacts folks the same way that it would impact a person who regularly smokes cigarettes. Like we have to put our need for connection on that same hierarchy as like food and water. We would never be like, oh, I'm too busy. I mean, sometimes we do that. I'm too busy to eat. I'm too busy to drink water, as I think about me needing to drink my water right now, and that's not okay. And so I want to challenge us to begin to prioritize connection in a way that says, like, this is not optional, this is a necessity. And for me, I think community and connection needs to happen on a weekly basis. And it may look different, which brings me to my next point is the reason why a lot of us feel lonely is because we feel like we have to connect in a way that is formal versus casual. If we lowered the barrier to entry when it comes to connection, a lot of people would socialize and connect a little bit more. We don't always have to go to brunch, is the short version of what I'm saying. We don't always have to go out in public. We don't always have to get dressed. I don't have to have my hair done, my nails done, my makeup done. Like, I don't have to be perfect. I don't have to be on. My house doesn't have to always be clean. I'm not saying like it has to have, you want people to feel comfortable. I'm saying like my house doesn't have to be spotless right before I invite someone over. My car doesn't have to be spotless before I let someone come in. Maybe part of connection and community is you coming over and helping me clean, or you helping me, vacuum out my car, if that is a barrier or something that is stopping me from allowing love into my life. Like, let it be casual. Come hang out with me in my pajamas. Come hang out with me, over breakfast or while we're going to the grocery store. Sit on the couch with me and just be there. We don't always have to connect it from a space of like, I have to make sure I'm all put together and then I'll allow people in. No, allow people to love you in the midst of your messiness. Allow people to love you in the midst of your imperfection. Allow people in the midst of your humanity. And that is how we combat loneliness. And so, again, a lot of like communities or social events, I need to get dressed up, right? If I go to church, I got to look halfway decent. It takes a lot to get out of the house. It takes a lot to like feel like I have to be on, that maybe I have to have a smile on my face. Maybe I feel like I can't be, overly emotional or overly opinionated, whatever. Like, if it's all of these shoulds, it's like, I'm good. I don't want to do it. Or I'll go, but I'm not genuinely connecting with the folks in this space. I'm just here. I'm just present, but I'm not truly present. If you really think about the genuine sense of what that word means, I have to kind of like suppress parts of myself. I have to downplay parts of my pain. I have to mask, and so that's why I feel lonely. I'm not really seen in this space. I'm here, but I'm not seen. And so my solution to that is to create spaces and communities where we do not have to be on, where we don't have to, feel like we have to get all dressed up, that we don't feel like we have to filter ourselves, and we can make space for emotional depth. So that's another reason why loneliness occurs. Another thing I've been thinking a lot about is sometimes we're not radically honest with ourselves. So it makes it really hard for us to be radically honest with other people. And so I might feel this disconnect emotionally, but I'm not sure how to name it or label it. Or I haven't even sat with myself long enough or in silence enough to be able to interrogate or get curious about what's happening in my emotional experience. And so when I go out with other people, there's a disconnect because I can't even communicate that, or I feel maybe a nervousness around vulnerability. So I'm resistant to the vulnerability of other people. And I have an inability to hold space for people without jumping to, oh, I got to fix this, or how do we get to a solution? That's why a lot of people feel lonely as well, because people are entering spaces and communities not desiring to be fixed, but to be held, to be loved, to be witnessed, to be seen. And a lot of us are rushing to like, how can I come up with a solution? How can we fix this? Or like, ew, I don't want that emotion. Like, get it away from me. Or, because I feel uncomfortable with this emotion, I'm going to project that uncomfortableness onto you, which makes you then feel lonely after this interaction because you didn't feel truly seen. This is just me talking off the top of my head. There's so many things that get in the way of authentic connection. And I kind of consider myself a little bit of a connection expert because a lot of times what I found is the events that I host, whether it be socially or professionally, my goal is that you're walking away with someone that could be a new friend. Like, if you tell me that you met someone because of me and that y'all not friends, I feel like, okay, I gotta go start. Or if you tell me like, wow, like something about this space, I just feel seen, I just feel heard. Or you're like, oh, all of a sudden I'm starting to ramble about something vulnerable that I never thought that I would ramble about. Know that that was intentional. Know that I'm intentionally creating spaces for that to happen. That is not random. That is not just me inviting you to a room and hoping that that happens. That's intentional. That's creating a foundation for authentic community and connection where people feel seen and where they feel heard. And if you would like support on what that looks like, if you lead small groups or if you engage community in any way, let me know. I'll come in, I'll come to your space, and I'll tell you immediately what it is about this space that isn't conducive for authentic community or authentic connection. One of those things being, just as one thing that's off the top of my head, is when sometimes we're in group spaces and we're engaging in group dialogue, but everybody doesn't get a voice. Everyone doesn't get to speak. One person is over talking another person. So I was present, I showed up. I might have benefited from what someone else said in the room, but you didn't get to hear me. I didn't feel heard. I didn't feel like what I had to say was significant enough to contribute because the way that the conversation was structured, I was left out. And I might not even consciously say that, but subconsciously, I'm getting that messaging. And there's a part of me that now feels disconnected from this space. So that's just one of my little pet peeves. It's like when there's community discussion, allow everyone to have space to take up space. All of our voices and our experiences are valid in this room. Otherwise, why are we here? A lot of community spaces, you'll find that there's like one person who's the expert and they're leading the space, but then they burn out and then the community like this kind of dwindles, right? That's not community. Community is we co-create the space together. I'm not better than you. I'm not like more expert than you. You have medicine, I have medicine. We all come to benefit from it. So how do we create a space that, embodies that narrative so that folks can walk away feeling valued, feeling like, wow, like I have something to contribute in this space. Again, intimacy is how we combat the loneliness epidemic. But the cool, kind of nervous, crazy thing about intimacy is it requires nakedness. And a lot of us are resistant to nakedness. We like to cover up. We want to hide because of shame. We don't want anyone to get too close. We don't want anyone to judge us, to reject us, right? And because of that, we're lonely. We're experiencing a loneliness epidemic. And so my challenge to you and to myself is how do we create more spaces for genuine connection and community in our lives? Not just a group where we all get together, not just a group where we're socializing, not just a group where I have to feel like I have to mask to get through this, but a space where I can genuinely be seen in the midst of my humanity, all of my parts, all of my wholeness. That is something I want us to think about as we go into the spring season, as the weather is getting nicer, as we're, going outside and enjoying people's presence a little bit more. I want us to begin to think about what does it truly mean to be present with ourselves and with other people? How do we disrupt the culture of numbing and distraction and rushing and fixing all of the ingredients of disconnection and loneliness in our lives? And how do we cultivate a culture of intimacy and vulnerability, emotional depth, and just love? Because that's what we all are deeply wired for and what we all deeply want. And that is the kind of community that is healing. So if you're in Detroit or the Metro Detroit area, I'm building a community called Courage Circle. And I'll tell you all about it another time, but I just wanted to get into this video to kind of talk a little bit about loneliness. But if you're interested, you can join the interest list that is going to be in the caption of this video, and you'll kind of get to see, what I mean in real time of what it looks like to build community where folks feel deeply seen, deeply heard, deeply loved, right? And that takes time and that takes intention, and I'm being very intentional about building this community. If you are a space holder, a therapist, a healer, a coach, all those different roles, and you want a space to feel held, I also have an offering called Healing Hearts Collective. We meet on the second Saturday of the month. And again, if you are just like an organizer, you are a community builder, and you're like, this makes sense. I would love some consultation around how to enhance my community events. I would love to connect with you as well. If you would like to partner, I would love to partner with you. And if you are one of my one-on-one clients, let's keep talking about how to be in genuine connection with yourself, to be in community with yourself, to practice self-intimacy practice by, doing the journaling prompts at the end of this video or the journaling prompts that may come up in session, that radical honesty, that rawness, that nakedness. How can we do that with ourselves so we can show up that way with other people as well? So always remember that you are loved, that you are enough, and stay inspired. And as always, please like, comment, and subscribe, and stay tuned for the next videos. If you have any questions, let me know, and I will see you next week. Bye.